Have you ever heard your name called? By something that shouldn't know who you are? I'm Daniel, and before tonight, I never believed in anything supernatural. Deserted roads, thick fog, flashing lights. I always thought it was just the paranoia of people who see too much terror. But this was different. It was almost 3 in the morning. The tarmac glistened under the headlights of my car, and I just wanted to get home. The road was deserted, without a single headlight in sight. The only sound was the low purr of the engine and the occasional crackle of the dashboard. Then something happened. A voice called out to me, "Daniel!" I slammed on the brakes instantly. My heart raced. The voice didn't come from the radio or my mobile phone. It came from inside the car. My name was spoken again, low, close, as if someone was sitting right behind me, breathing in my ear. The only thing separating me from it was a thin piece of fabric on the back seat. And when I looked in the rearview mirror, I realized I wasn't alone. It was almost midnight when I decided to take the B2133, a minor road that crossed a forgotten rural area. On the GPS, it looked like the best option. Straight with no traffic, it would shorten my journey by about 20 minutes. But as soon as I entered it, I felt a strange chill. The tarmac seemed to reflect the light in a strange way, as if it were wet, but it wasn't raining. The surrounding trees were tall and twisted, forming distorted shadows that danced on the car window. And then the radio started to squawk. I didn't pay it much attention. Then, out of nowhere, it switched itself off, and silence came with it. It wasn't just a lack of noise, it was a strange, heavy silence, as if the whole world had stopped. No wind, no crickets, nothing. Even the car's engine seemed to be running quietly. Then I saw it in the rearview mirror. At the back, in the middle of the road, there were a pair of dim headlights. But there was something strange about them. The light flickered, disappeared for a few moments, and then returned, as if something was passing in front of it. I focused on the road and kept driving, trying to ignore that strange sensation. But then, right in the middle of the road, something appeared that made me freeze. A figure? No, it wasn't a person. It was small, curvy, with thin legs and long arms that ended in thin fingers. Too long to be normal. It was standing on the tarmac with its back to me. My heart raced. I slowed down, trying to understand what the hell it was. But before I could do anything, he turned round. The light from my headlights hit the thing straight in the face, and I swear to God, it wasn't human. The skin looked wrinkled and greyish. The eyes were big and deep, and the mouth, well, it wasn't really a mouth, but a thin line that stretched almost to the ears. There shouldn't be such a thing. I blinked, and in a second, the thing was gone. But in the rearview mirror, the flashing headlights were still there, and in that instant I knew for sure I wasn't alone on that road. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. My instinct screamed at me to accelerate, to get out of there as quickly as possible. But something inside me forced me to look again in the rearview mirror. The headlights were still at the back, flickering in the dark, as if the car was choking on its own light. Only there was no sound of an engine, no noise of tires on the tarmac. Just that strange presence on the road. I swallowed and kept my eyes on the road, but that's when my heart almost stopped. On the hard shoulder a little ahead, The thing was there again. Now it was on its side, half facing the road, as if it was waiting for something. No, as if it was waiting for someone. I tried to ignore it. Go on, don't look, pretend you didn't see, I thought. But as the car approached, the headlights illuminated its body again, skin wrinkled and dry, almost translucent. Thin legs like old branches, but the eyes, now I could see them well. They were deep, very deep, but they shone in a color I couldn't describe. It wasn't a natural glow. It was a reflection of something that wasn't there. And then he raised one of his hands. It wasn't a sudden movement. It was slow, calculated, a gesture that anyone would understand. A request for a lift. My insides churned. Panic rose from my stomach to my throat, but I kept driving. The car drove straight past, and for a moment I had the illusion that the thing was no longer there. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. Through the glass of the passenger window, the figure was watching me, not running alongside the car, not floating. It was simply there, following my speed without moving a muscle. That's when I did the only thing that seemed right. I accelerated. The engine rumbled loudly, the speedometer climbed, and the blur of the roadside flashed by. But before I could breathe a sigh of relief, I felt a chill run up the back of my neck. I looked in the rearview mirror. The headlights at the back were gone. But in the back seat, something moved. My fingers clenched on the steering wheel until my knuckles cracked. My whole body tensed up, as if frozen, but my foot was still heavy on the accelerator. I didn't want to look again. I couldn't. But it was as if something inside me needed to see. I swallowed and adjusted the rearview mirror. The first thing I realized was how dark it was. No lights behind me, no car on the road, just liquid darkness engulfing the motorway. The second thing was the shadow. In the back seat, right in the middle, there was something there. Not a body, not a clear figure. It was a dark blur, an absence of light, as if the night itself had gathered in the back seat. My chest tightened. My body went into high alert. I was alone. I was sure I was alone. But then, the sound came. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a whisper. It was a crack, dry and hollow, like old wood splitting. My heart raced, and before I could react, another sound came, this time closer. Behind my ear, a slow breath, cold, the kind of sound that shouldn't be there. My eyes went wide, and without thinking, I turned the mirror round. And it was at that very moment that I saw it. Two empty eye sockets with no eyes, reflecting the headlights of my own car. A face that didn't look complete, as if it had been sculpted halfway round and abandoned. The skin was thin, pulled over a fragile structure, like old leather stretched over brittle bones. And the mouth had no lips, just a dark opening, with the corners torn upwards, forming something that could have been a smile, but wasn't. I screamed. The car shook when I accidentally jerked the steering wheel to the right. I almost went off the tarmac. The engine roared as I pressed even harder on the accelerator. But the thing didn't move. It just stood there, looking at me. The road in front of me seemed to stretch out like an endless nightmare. My chest was rising and falling fast. My thoughts were scrambled. But when I looked in the rearview mirror again, there was nothing else. The back seat was empty. Only I wasn't so sure I was alone anymore. My heart was still pounding in my chest. The back seat was empty, but I knew what I had seen, or what I thought I had seen. My mind tried to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was tiredness. Maybe my eyes had played tricks on me. But the truth is that, deep down, I knew it was there. My hands were so sweaty they could barely grip the steering wheel. The silence inside the car now seemed even heavier, almost suffocating. I switched on the radio, anything to fill the void, but there was only static. A low, irregular hum, as if something was trying to speak. That's when I smelled it, a damp, earthy smell, like freshly dug graveyard soil. It came from behind. My stomach lurched. My whole body shivered. I didn't want to look, but an instinct stronger than myself made my head turn. Just a little, just enough to see the mark on the seat. The fabric was sunken in, as if someone was still sitting there, as if something had been left behind. I let out a swear word and turned forwards, keeping my eyes on the road. I accelerated even more. I just wanted to get out of there. After what seemed like hours, I finally saw the lights of the city on the horizon. I forced myself to take a deep breath, to convince myself that I was safe. As soon as I spotted a petrol station, I didn't think twice. I pulled the car over and got out quickly, feeling the cold night air hit my face. I leaned on the side of the car, trying to pull myself together. The wind blew, carrying that smell of wet asphalt and petrol. Everything seemed normal, but I couldn't stop feeling watched. I looked at the car, at the passenger window, and then inside in the dim light. I saw something that made me freeze. Handprint on the rear window, a dark, dirty handprint from inside the car. And that's when I realized I had never been alone on that road. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. And comment below, have you ever experienced something strange on the road? I want to know. See you in the next video, if you have the courage.